Hello, everyone. This is Dave with Moonride, and I'm channeling the man in the moon. If you've watched other videos, perhaps you watched a recent one where Abraham Lincoln, actually kind of came into the picture. Um, I have not really had that experience before, where other people are just characters are starting to show up. It's really interesting. Doing this work is it's fascinating. The things that happen, the sort of cutting edge changes that come about. I really encourage everyone to work in these directions. I think our consciousness is changing. And I love Abraham Lincoln. I know that, he wasn't so great to Native American people, for example. And as an American person, I just want to, deeply apologize for the destruction of your culture. This was very wrong. And we need to do our best to make amends for that insofar as we can. But regardless of this, the person who held our country together, really literally held our country together, was Abraham Lincoln. He's a very noble person. He gave his life for this country, and he was a poor person. All the other presidents you look at, almost all of them, virtually all of them except Clinton, were, I guess Clinton and Obama were, all of them were rich. Um, Obama wasn't poor, Clinton was, and Abraham Lincoln certainly was not a rich man. And I think that says a lot. A common person was able to become a president and totally do the right thing. Also, he was a Quaker, and you just can't knock Quakers, except for Richard Nixon, of course. So I'm going to ask him about America today. I'm going to ask Lincoln. Um, let's take a look. Yeah, he's coming forward very powerfully. Okay. Yeah, wow, his presence is quite overwhelming. Hmm. Hmm. Whoa. Yeah, you just get this incredible feeling of like, God, just this. I can't explain it. It's like a feeling of integrity, a feeling of power and will and justice. And that's what he's about right now, justice. All right. Let's just okay. What should Americans do today to be patriotic? How should we act in lieu of the present crisis? Don't talk too much. When you're talking and speaking with others, be very selective and targeted in how you're speaking to people, right? Don't go off on these silly tangents. People are always going off on these silly, ridiculous, well, what about Hillary Clinton's emails? You just stick to your point. You just stick to your guns. Imagine this is a sword in your hand and you just keep using that sword. Don't go running around and like get some, pin, right? Here's the sword. Use the sword, right? Speak your truth and don't get all crazy and angry. Just be like, well, I'm not going to talk about that. The point is this. This is what we're talking about, right? Pick topics and not people. So try to go, if you're talking about the missing kids, the kids who were taken away from their parent at the border, don't you let somebody distract you about and start talking about this or talking about that. No, you are talking about the missing kids. I don't care what so and so didn't do for the missing kids. I want to know, sir, what you are doing. I want to know, madam, what are you doing to help those kids? You just stay on the point and stay on the point and hammer and hammer and hammer. Don't get all angry because then they've won. Look how angry he is. He's wrong. No, you just stay serious and you stay pointed and realize there's just some people that they'll never, they're not going to listen to you. Who cares? It's just like one of those things where it's like you'll never get 100% support. He's like, I never did. Right? You think I was a popular president in my time? You're wrong. I was very unpopular in my time. People wrote horrible cartoons of me. People maligned my wife. People were incredibly cruel. My sons died while I was in office. And the next day I'd read the most horrible stories about me that were false, and I didn't go after them. I didn't go, send some hitman after them. I could have. No, I could have drafted them in the war or something like that, but I didn't. I stood with my truth and my justice despite, really quite horrific pain that I was suffering. Um, he's like, look, this pain was so great. I suffered so greatly that the bullet was a welcome. He said, I was glad somebody shot me. He said, I was so exhausted. He's like, obviously it wasn't good for the country, and obviously it wasn't good for me. But he said, like, I reached a point where I was so absolutely finished and wasted that it prevented like a more unpleasant death. He said I was already sick and I was on the way out the door. So essentially, it was a quick death. He's like, I wouldn't have chosen it because of the harm that it did to people around me, like my wife. But, that's why it happened, right? Because I couldn't choose it. I would have chosen again to be selfless. But I'm not, that's what happened anyway. And he's also saying, look, there's no difference now. He said, in some ways, America hasn't changed. You still have these crazy fanatic people that think slavery's a great idea and that are willing to kill you. They're not going to talk logic. They're going to kill you. There's nothing new. He's like, it's the same thing. We're just fighting this civil war all over again in a different way. But now it's all about perception as opposed to bullets. It's like, in a way, that's a benefit. At least people aren't dying left and right. In a way, but in a way, he's also saying, look, it is better because he's like, at that time, 1860, black people might as well have been at concentration camps, right? That, it's like, that isn't the case now. He's like, yeah, it's bad. It's bad to be a black person in a the middle of a downtown city in some hellhole. He's like, yeah, that's pretty horrible, but at least that's not the case for all black people now, and at least most people in America think that that's wrong. And so things are different and things are better and they're progressing. But what we're seeing is just a resurgence of that energy, that sort of selfish. It's if this is capitalism. It's like, look, this is capitalism. What you think is going to happen? If you've got capitalism, you're going to have these things. Not that socialism and communism are any better, but along with capitalism, there's going to be a rise of the powers, a rise of a small percentage of people who have all the money, and they're going to control things for a while. But he says, look, it's just for a while. He's like, the sword of justice is just about to break the chain. And then imagine like people are pulling on a tug of war and you break the rope and poof, they both fall down. He's like, we're just about to break it. Um, any other advice? President Lincoln? Okay, look, he's like, look, there, be careful. There are going to be more assassinations. When people hit at the streets and they start protesting, they will be targeted, and there will be people who try to kill you. He says, look, that's just that's a price of justice. He's like, if you want a democratic society, you've got to put your life on the line. And that's unfortunate, but that's just the way that that it is. He said that this won't be massive. There won't be a war per se, but those people will be somewhat in danger. He's like, look, when you go out, go together with people that you trust. When you go to these events, you just keep your eyes open. You just keep looking all around, and you go to those events. If you're running those events, you tell every single one of your people two things. Number one, You keep your eyes open. That means you, Bob, I want you to watch the skyline. You, I want you to watch the buildings. You, I want you to watch the police. You, I want you to have a camera. You keep every single one of your people to keep their eyes open in every direction, because the person that's shooting is shooting from a higher place, like a higher building, and there's a real danger there. If only they're just trying to intimidate you, they're just trying to make you fearful. That you keep your eyes open and you contact the police. The minute you see something strange, you contact them. This will be difficult because maybe you don't necessarily trust the police, but have somebody be a liaison with the cops, and everybody knows who that liaison is, and you just get to the liaison, and that's the person that's going to go talk to the police and say, this guy's over there and this guy's over there. The police aren't all bad too. The police, some of them are going to be on your side, even if it doesn't look like that. A lot of them, they're not happy with Trump either. Some of those people are minorities and they've, had their cousins deported, and you keep that in mind. Don't project Trump onto some police person. They're just a guy who's been told to do something and keep the peace. It doesn't matter that person, you might look at them and think they're a kind of person that's not fair. You appeal to the police first. If you're going to convince anyone about justice, the first person that you need to convince is the police. So don't go there and antagonize them. You go and you talk to those police people and say, look, you're an American. You understand that I have a right to protest, right? And then what do you think about that? I mean, go ahead and ask, what do you think of Donald Trump? Do you support him? And you probably see them kind of wobble, like they don't really know what to say in front of their police chief. Um, Appeal to them, appeal to them, appeal to them. Tell them, look, remember, we are Americans, all of us, and we're here to do justice, and we're here for the right things to happen, and be peaceful. Number two, be peaceful. Do not engage in any kind of fighting, arguing, battle. That is not productive. What is productive is just like Martin Luther King told you. You go and you sit on those stools and you don't say a word. You just sit on the stools until justice is derived, and then the next guy that comes in, he's a white guy, and people think, oh, he's not part of Martin Luther King's movement, and then the white guy sits in that stool, and he says, nope, I'm not ordering any food until you feed these people, right? Don't forget, those guys, Martin Luther King era, that was not only about black people fighting for their rights, it was about white people listening, right? And I would say that to any minority. People do listen. I mean, not all of them. We're focused on this one person, this one incident. We're seeing the cop shoot the kid over and over and over again. We're watching the same video. And, that's a person in a time. It doesn't mean everyone. We don't have videos out there of a black person and a white person becoming friends and working it out. We don't have that. There's nobody who's showing us those videos. They're not shocking and inciting enough. It would be great if somebody did make those videos, actually. That would be one of the nicest things that people could do for our culture. So, if there's a viewer out there who's willing to say, look, I made this friend, we met at this rally, and, first we were opposed, but I don't agree with everything he says, but, he or she's a really cool person, and, I understand my world better because of that person. It's not all about me, and that's what we need to get off. It's not all about me. Yeah, we are important, but it's all about all of us, even the people you disagree with. It's all about all of us. We're going to make it. He's like, look, we're going to make it. We're going to come out of this stronger, just like we came out of the Civil War stronger, just like we came out of World War II stronger. There'll be a period of time of reparations and just a period of time of, us getting our stuff together again. But, work from your heart. Work from your heart, and try to be heart-centered. Don't engage in fighting with your family over politics. Ask them questions. Ask them how they are, right? And say, well, aside from politics, how are you? Right? That's what we need to do right now. There's going to be a period of time, maybe 5 years where we're just licking our wounds here. Doesn't mean we're going to lose our power or China's going to take over the planet or something like that. We're actually a stronger nation now than China or Russia, for example. We're going to come out of this an even stronger nation because, China and Russia, they didn't fight this battle. They didn't go through an internal process of justice and having the dark forces rise only to knock them down. They didn't do that. We did. And our society is going to emerge in the future as being a much more just society in general because of this. If this didn't happen, we would have happily gone through with, rich people giving a lot of money to the government. And I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat, that's happening constantly. It was kind of like this. Either we got Bernie Sanders or we got a disaster. And, you might disagree with some of the things that Sanders says or whatever. That's not the important thing. The important thing to notice is that we had to have a major, major change. That change has maybe taken a more extreme turn. But actually, in a weird way, this might be a more effective way of change than Bernie would have been. Okay, so do not, your sword of justice is here for justice. It's not here for blood, right? If you catch yourself going for the jugular, if you catch yourself getting really, really angry and take a moment, step back. If you are leading any kind of peaceful movement, it's really, really, really important that you go through a process with the people working with you where you're like, okay, this is how one is nonviolent. Just like Martin Luther King told people, this is how you are nonviolent. Practice nonviolence. This is how you are vigilant, and you got to vigilantly correct anybody who's doing something wrong. Like your group might become out of hand, and people might start breaking stuff. You go there and you say, look. I need you to back off, and I need to talk to you about, remember we talked about how we were going to be peaceful? Some of those people are plants from the right wing that'll make you look bad. So they're there so that Fox News can take a picture of it and say, look how horrible they are. And it is part of your job to stop them and, if necessary, expose them. I mean, if you want to take your own camera, walk up to them and say, look, who are you? I've got you on camera right here, and I'm going to turn you into the cops. I don't think that you're part of our movement, right? And on the other hand, it might be just somebody who gets really emotional, and you need to stop them and say, look, you don't want me to turn you into the police, do you? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Just go, hey, look, if you're really here for justice, it's got to be peaceful justice. That's the only justice that will work. Yeah, and again, look out for people at the top of buildings. You hate to say that, but people are at these rallies, they're focused in one direction and they don't notice what's going on behind them. That's the other thing is that if I foresee many rallies, and if you're at a rally, one of the jobs of one person is going to be just to stand back and just look at the rooftops, just watch the skyline, and see something up. And that person should have like direct line to the police chief, like press a button. He's at this building right there above me. I can see him, right? The police will be somewhat vigilant too, but the police, they're not going to get distracted because of these events, so you create a violent event, the police aren't looking, and then somebody does something over here and we don't know who it is because nobody was watching. The calmer you go into this with the more focus, the better. And justice will be served. So, here's the sword of justice, and it is going back into its sheath. Lincoln is sad. He just wants you to know, look, I did not fight so that you would be slaves, right? I did not fight for that. And, slavery works on a host of different levels. This is about freedom, and I fought for freedom. And he's like, don't break my heart and sell out. And if that image helps you when you're walking into the protest, if the image of Lincoln and how you want to carry him forth, works for you, hopefully that'll do it. Martin Luther King, I would ask everyone to hold Martin Luther King in their hearts and minds when they're walking into these events. He will be there, and I think he's a subject for another channel. And he's just saying, the universe blesses America. The universe knows that there is a lot of hope here, right? Democracy's never been an answer. It's always been a question. And there's hope that we can have a good answer for this question. A lot of hope. He's sad because people will be harmed, right? But he believes that it will all come back and work out together. Interesting, that triangle, that sort of pyramid that you see on money? He's showing me this. Often this just shows up as a symbol of power. Yeah, and it's not an Illuminati power. It's like the real power of democracy. Well, it's a great image, right? Because the democracy is the base. Here's the people, and as we move up, the top powers, they depend on you, right? You pull a stone out of that thing, and it'll start to collapse. So remember, you have the power. You are Americans. You will bring us into a new age. Young people will come through, and they will understand this even better than us, and they'll have this in their mind's eye when they're choosing their leaders in the future, and that's a good thing. All right. Hope you enjoyed my channel. Thanks for watching.